Your character, Omni-Man, is by far, I think, the most popular character in the show. There's all sorts of memes, video edits of Omni-Man bouncing around the internet. Does any of this stuff make its way to you? And do you ever actually happen to see like the fervor that is out there around this character?
Well, we have 2 kids in their 20s, so yes, I do. My attention is brought to all that from time to time.
Your character, starts as a villain, and this sort of love for the character has been there, even though he's been a bad guy for the majority of the show so far. How does this all strike you?
Well, it's fantastic. I mean, and that's a big part of the obviously the world in which we live now, and a part of getting more attention for the show we're making and the stories we're telling. And I love playing the guy that you love to hate, but I also love that in this multiverse, all of these characters, certainly most of these characters, are really evolving, and we're seeing different aspects of them as we go through this story.
Have you read the entire series yet for yourselves, or are you still kind of holding off and you just get the script season by season and kind of keep the surprise intact for yourselves?
A long time ago, I read like the first 2 compendiums, and then I lost track. And then when I got to do this show, I got to revisit the first. And then now that we're kind of into parts that I haven't read, I'll be honest with you, I kind of don't want to read it. I have them right here, but I don't want to read it because I kind of just want to get a fresh perspective on who Mark is as I keep moving.
Same, yes. When I first was cast, I read a lot, and then I decided it's kind of fun to be surprised. Because it takes so long for the episodes to come out, I then also forget what we've done. So it truly, like seeing it for the first time, I watched the finished episodes, and I really enjoyed that experience. So I'm trying to kind of stay in the present timeline of the show because it keeps it fun for me.
I don't know what's coming, and I prefer it that way. I'm one of the few who didn't know the source material when the script for the first episode of the show landed on my proverbial desk. The team, brought us up to speed on it. I actually really like, first of all, being able to tell longer stories, I hope we go another 3, 4, 5 seasons. And second of all, we don't know the end of our story. I like not knowing the end of Omni-Man / Nolan's story.
I'm a very long time Invincible fan. I've been reading like way back in the comics. I was going to ask you that. So you've read all the comics then?
Yeah, I read them when they came out. I read them. Okay. I read Invincible and Walking Dead as they were ongoing. They were both on my pull list.
You might be the only one who has read all of Invincible and knows what's
I think
coming down the road.
I think that's true. Although I do suspect that some of the people have read it now because they're a part of the show. I don't know how many people might have read it when it was coming out.
Do you think it's informed your approach to the character whatsoever that you do know what's coming down the line? Because again, most people don't know what's coming until they get the scripts handed to them, it seems. At least that's what Steven and Gillian have told me in their experience.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily inform how I'm doing it, but it really helps me understand where I am in the story, because I know the story from top to bottom. So it helps me understand. It helps us when I'm having conversations with Robert and Simon and everybody who's there, do you feel like we're at a point where this is how he would be, or do we feel like not yet, or that Lizard League fight, which from season 2 was, when I voiced it initially, it was very kind of very light and like a fight, just and then we went back once there was some animation, and the animation told such a different story that we redid it in a way that made it a lot more visceral, a lot scarier, a lot more impactful. And so it's very helpful to get information from them to clue me in as to where I am.
You've played 2 comic characters that I think more than any others, in all of comic book media, people feel like you have been perfectly cast as both Omni-Man and J. Jonah Jameson. I assume you have a certain attachment to all the characters that you play. Do you feel like, oh yes, no one else could have played this character than me. This was made for me. I'm so glad that this came my way because no one else could have done this.
It's sort of a combination of, I'm so glad this came my way because nobody else could have done it. But then it's also, I'm so glad this came my way because it's so fun to do it, and I'm glad I'm the guy that got chosen. I mean, of course, there are lots of guys who could have done a wonderful job as JJJ and or as Nolan, but I felt with JJJ, my job more than really any other character in the piece was to just try and rip it straight off the comic book pages. I mean, honestly, that's basically true with the vast majority of the characters that I play. It comes from the page and then filtered through the director. So with Nolan, I had more catching up to do because I wasn't familiar with the multiverse of Invincible, and I still don't know, what's coming, as we said at the end. So I'm kind of barely keeping up. I'm kind of chest deep in the world of Invincible and Omni-Man and Nolan, and enjoying the swim.
You guys have more screen time, your characters, in this season than any other season in the past. Do you guys talk more behind the scenes, like when you get the scripts and when you see that you're going to have a lot more stuff? Or are you just completely sequestered and you don't even probably get FaceTime until something like this here?
It is a bummer. I don't get to talk to Gil, and I would love to talk to Gil more often.
I know. Yeah, we have never recorded together for the show. But I have to say, and this is no bullshit, I'm so blown away by your performance. Like, that's another beautiful thing about watching this show, is that the cast is so incredible, and that, because you're doing it so in isolation, that when I get to see it all put together, I don't feel like we didn't record together when I'm watching the episodes. And that's a testament to the producers and the directors and the way they run the show. But I would love that.
Sometimes when I'm having a difficult time with my scenes, I ask if Gil has recorded hers already, and then I overlay and play it back. And that is usually when the performance gets much easier to handle for me. We should talk about that. We should just try to record at the same time. I'd be down for that.
I would love that.
Season 3, Rex, trying to be way less of a jerk this time around.
Trying so hard, not always succeeding.
Do you like to try to keep everything reined in as this new version of Rex we're kind of seeing in this season, or do you really enjoy the sort of over-the-top version of the character where he's just being a loudmouth nonstop?
I think both, because he is both, which is what's fun. I think the growth we're seeing in Rex in season 3, it's the other guys, it's all informed by the other guy. Like the Rex who is, curious about his friends and is willing to have emotional conversations with people is a result of the that's always right here, that's always right there. So I think that's what's fun about it, is it's both, and getting to do both is fun. I love getting to just lob jokes in and roast other characters and have fun with it. But boy, are some of these more emotional scenes that they've written just gorgeous and so fun to play.
In between seasons 2 and 3 here, you portrayed Omni-Man in Mortal Kombat. I'm curious, what was that like, doing the voice work for that in comparison to the show? I assume it's a lot more, grunts and groans and stuff like that than maybe in the show. But how did those two experiences differ between one another?
Any offer that comes in, I'm like, script. It's all about the script, Really funny, really good, fun stuff. And yes, much more grunting and groaning, and I mean, there's always a fair amount of fight noises. I was pleased with the consistency of who Omni-Man is, even taking him into a different world.
Again, Mortal Kombat's been one of them here, but would you be down to do anything outside of just the show? Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely open to it. Again, it comes back to being able to look at the material and get a sense of, is it something that I think and that I hope the creative team thinks is a valuable addition or addendum or sideline to the show that we're making. We've established that this is a really good show, and I wouldn't want to do anything to compromise that. Do you feel like ownership over Mark and Eve at this point, to where you would like to keep reprising these roles in anything else outside of the show in the years to come if those opportunities presented themselves? I would be more than happy to. I don't think I would be cast in the live action as this character. Yeah, feeling like maybe I'm not going to play a high school student if and when they make the live action, but I would be happy to play a cameo as somebody else. I love Robert. I love the whole team of this show. So
in whatever way they would like to have me. But yeah, I don't think the live action Atom Eve character is in the cards for me.
I'm probably a little too old. Beyond that, I would love to be involved with anything that makes sense. Invincible world. Getting able to kind of access things with your voice too is like such a privilege, where maybe you're not giving all aspects of yourself, but you're able to still really like hone a performance. And so I'm very protective over how Mark is portrayed, but I'm sure I'll be like, okay, cool, someone else can take it at some point.
How much flexibility do you have in the recording booth? I assume you more than others can maybe add some quips here and there to your own lines throughout the scripts.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what other people are doing, truthfully, because we don't, unlike some other shows, like Big Mouth, we used to record like in the same room together and stuff like that. We just don't do that because it's such a big cast. They're all over the place. They're busy, hard to schedule. So I record alone. So I don't know anybody else's process. Yeah, I riff, but not a ton. The scripts they write are incredible. You know, like I'll pitch it. I'll say like, oh, right here, there's room for this, and a lot of times they're like, yeah, great, let's do that. You know, they're very generous. Robert Kirkman loves when people change his words. Robert Kirkman, here's two things Robert Kirkman loves: when you change his words and when you don't say them and just say words on your own.
Which Invincible costume's better, the new black and blue or the original version?
I'm an original guy.
You and me both.
Yeah.
All right, just to keep it interesting, I'll say the new one.
All right, right on. There you go. I like villain eras. I like, it's fun. It's fun to keep it edgy. I'm into it. Yeah, but the original.
Season 4 has already been picked up for the show. Robert's talked about how he sees this. If everything keeps getting picked up, it'll last maybe like 8 to 10 seasons or something like that. Do you try not to think too far down the line? And is it nice to just continue to have this work to come back to on an annual basis with this show?
I'm so grateful that this show is so good, so successful, that in my hopes, we will get to tell the whole story. So I think any concerns or worries I had early on were just, ooh, I hope it finds an audience. Ooh, I hope we get to do it all. I hope we get to, and all the little side quests because what you get with Invincible, that you also get with Walking Dead, but Robert's one of the only people who does forward-moving, cumulative storytelling. There's no reset points. There's no jumping on points. This is just one long story that unfolded for how many years was Invincible coming out? 15? 14?
Yeah, I want to say like
something like that.
Between 15 and 20, I want to say.
You know, Mark goes from being a teenager to like a 30-something. So what's interesting about that is the richness of the story only gets richer, rather. You know, the story only gets more interesting characters join. And with stuff like you're seeing with Rex, very much a side character for 2 seasons, just a jokester. And now, he gets to have like an emotional storyline. And that's going to happen for a lot of people, that you're going to see a lot of people have growth, and that is allowed only if you are given the time. And thank God we are getting this time.
When you're an actor and you have work, especially these days, I'm so grateful. It's kind of amazing to have this always something to revisit every year. It can be tough at times because it's like, oh, cool, there's just always kind of running in the back of something else that's happening. But I would never change that for a second. I'm down for 10 seasons. Let's go 20 seasons. I don't care.
Yeah, they've also been really accommodating of me when, other jobs have taken me places and found a way to still make it happen. So it feels like I would do this show for as long as they want to make this show. I love this show. I'm a fan of it. It's so cool that my friends who were fans of the comic seem to really love the show and are happy with how it turned out, and that's really gratifying too. And I'll do this show for as long as they want to make it.